Are you really whispering? You're whispering? Are you whistling? You're whistling the intro of the show?
I was trying to think of
Whistle
it.
while you work?
Yeah, I
Oh
was
my
trying
God,
to,
I'm
I was
pretty sure
trying
that's
to think
Disney.
of a theme song, and I was like, that's all that came out.
No, that didn't work
Yeah,
out so well.
Hey, guys, it's Danielle here from Big Money Stylist Podcast. We are on week number uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
I like the Gillo Spanish.
We are in week cuatro. Last week I had an accent. I was trying to speak Spanish this week. I only know 1 through 10 in Spanish and like hola. That's it. That's all I know. But hey, we are here. It's another week. If you enjoyed my theme song, great. If you didn't, I'll see if I can come up with a better song next week than Whistle While You Work. We have Ani here. Hello. Ani, say hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And we have Miss Val. I was going to say Valerina, but
That's
Miss
right.
Val.
Her name is Valerina.
It's
Do
just
not
Val.
be confused. Nope, it's Valerina. I changed it.
Valerina. Okay,
I'll
well,
answer to anything,
Changed
guys.
her name.
It's fine. Valari.
Her name is Valerina.
Valari.
Valari.
we have Lori and Annie.
You don't you? Oh,
little
Danielle, don't
Annie.
you dare.
I went there.
Little Annie.
I will never respond to that.
Little Annie Tutu.
If I'm mad at Ani, I'm like, Annie? Just kidding.
Oh, great. Now I know why you do that.
All right, I'm taking over this show. We're going to get this show moving forward. I'd like to welcome you here to the Big Money Stylist Podcast. If you are not currently subscribed and or left us a review, I'd encourage you to do that today. Also, if you are not able to watch or haven't even known that you could watch each one of these episodes, you could listen to it like you are right now in the podcast, or you'd like to read with the show notes, all of the tips and tricks here from each of these shows. You can always check that out at bigmoneystylistnow.com. Bigmoneystylistnow.com. By heading over there, you're going to get all of the reading, watching, listening that you can possibly gather inside of the Big Money Stylist podcast. Now, today we're going to roll down our hosts here if you are, again, new to the show, what our purpose is and why we are actually doing this show. This show is about setting artists and stylists in the hair industry free from the bondage. The bondage. The bondage. I just like saying that. The bondage.
Wait, what is it?
The bondage.
Free from what?
The bondage.
Free from who?
I don't know. Bondage.
Oh, gotcha.
Truth is, I'd like to be held in bondage by
Oh, other show. Wrong show.
Wrong show.
Wrong
Date your
podcast.
wife. Wrong podcast. Okay, so we're gonna come back on this. I'm gonna ask you ladies a question right out of the gate here to get this show started today. We're gonna start this off with old Anion.
Yes.
Anion, give it to us. What does this mean? A artist or stylist might find themselves in slavery, and we're here to set them free. What does this mean?
Basically what that means is there comes a point when you're a stylist that you really have no control over your own business. Whatever the client wants, whenever they want to come in, whatever service they want, you're literally providing them to their beck and call. So even on days, if you on a Saturday when you don't want to be there, your kids have an event or a soccer game, it doesn't matter. You're still stuck inside the salon. You finish at 8 o'clock, but a client wants another haircut that you don't even want to do. You're still staying till 9:30 just to finish it off. You're literally stuck there, enslaved by bullshit rules and clients.
Okay. So let's move
So
to your
depressing.
right. Very depressing.
Slavery does not
And
sound fun.
and slavery can happen at any price point.
Oh, I like that. Save that climactic experience of what you're speaking to, that greatness, before we end. We're going to get to that topic. Val, Coach
Yes,
Val,
sir.
give it to us here. What else would you put on this idea of slavery, but specifically slavery in front of the chair? Meaning, what's going on in the front of the chair? And it's kind of the purpose behind this show that we're trying to help artists actually understand. There's something else got to happen on the front of the chair. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, the front of the chair is the business and marketing part. And if you're in slavery, you're coming from a place of scarcity because you don't know and understand the part of business and marketing. So you're just stuck in this rut of doing tons of clients, working ridiculous hours because you don't know how to get new butts in your chair at a different price point to improve your quality of life. So,
Amen. Now, Coach Val and Coach Johnny, I'm going to come to you guys again, and Danielle's going to bring us into crescendo, and then we're going to get into today's topic. So talk to me about what results you've seen. We run a program called Big Money Stylist. We've got 120 current active members inside of our mastermind. We've got classes that are sold out clear through till almost May now of 2018. We've got 16 two-day events. We've got three 300-person events this year. There's a lot happening for artists here at Big Money Stylist, but talk about what you have seen as the possibility, not through our experience, but through the results of our students in going to this other place on the other side of this bondage. And then we're going to dive into some tools today around this idea of profit and raising your prices and why NBR might be a solution for that. But talk about it, and Ani, let's start with you. What are you seeing? What have you seen in some of the results of students in what has changed for them from going not only from being a slave, but to becoming ultimately free and liberated inside of their business?
I mean, the results of our students speak for themselves. I've had them tell me that in 1 year, they doubled the amount they were making per month, making 10, 20 grand per month. And some of the coolest things I hear is actually one of our students who said that she felt like her mom and grandma were raising her son because she had to work so much. She came to BMS, texted me the 1 week later and said, I just want you to know. I said, screw it all. I'm going to start implementing everything. She's like, I made more money this 1 week than I have in a long time. She's like, and I was home every night for my kid and I just spent Saturday with him. She's like, I haven't spent a Saturday with my son in a very long time. So that's what we're seeing now. And the changes happen quick if they're willing to do the work.
Okay. Val, I'm going to come into you the same thing. Give us an idea here. You focus on both the BMS and NBR side of the game. Run our salons here in Laguna Beach, California with your little small team of assassins with scissors. Dun. Okay, give it to us. What results have you seen watching? You've been here the longest. You were actually Coach Ani's coach. Yeah. So long before it was Coach Ani, it was Coach Val who coached Coach Ani to become a coach. Okay, good. So give it to us here. What have you seen as some of the results for women and men who actually break through this?
Yeah, not only like what Ani was saying, but they get that freedom back and they have more fun behind the chair. They get the artist gets to come back alive. So they get the profit, they're making more money, they're able to spend more time with their family and have that freedom that way. But I feel like their art of doing hair is getting better because they aren't slaves, they're not working themselves to death. And you're just seeing like a different spark in them come alive that's like balanced out from having more money, having freedom and time with their family, and then loving their job again. It's not a job, it's back to being art and loving it.
Oh! So listen, if you're listening to this show and you're saying, oh, dear God, I want some of that. I want some of this life that they're talking about. I mean, if you want to be a slave and you want to be anchored to your chair and you want to work 6 days a week, you want to make less and work more, well, congratulations. Just listen to this podcast and enjoy your drive to the salon for the 72nd day in a row. For the rest of you listening to this podcast, though, they're like, I can't do this shit anymore. BigMoneyStylist.com is a direction for you to head. That is BigMoneyStylist.com. We are taking applications for the classes that are opening up late this spring and into the summer. Would love to have you part of our team and experience a 2-day intensive event called the Big Money Stylist Intensive. Now, with that being said, we are going to come to the queen of NBR, Danielle.
Well, I was thinking as you guys were talking, I was like, but why would I turn down money, Garrett? But why would I turn down money? I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's just one color after 5. I mean, and she's going to pay me like $700. So I'm already there. Like, why would I turn down money? It's because we forget why we got into this industry in the first place. And we get into this industry to become our own boss, interestingly enough. So we can create our own hours. And fortunately and unfortunately, we can put ourselves into slavery. And then we slowly forget why we got in this industry, and we just become a factory funneling clients through, losing even the connection with clients. I don't know about you guys, but I very much, like, one of the things I love about doing hair is the connection I have with my clients. And that doesn't necessarily mean like sitting there and having this amazing, engaging conversation all the time, every appointment, but just like connecting with them, knowing that like when they leave, they feel confident, they feel amazing, and they're like, you know what I mean? And if you're selling yourself into slavery, you lose that connection with your client, which doesn't fulfill your needs of why you got into the industry.
Yeah, because you're kind of resentful of them.
Yes.
You're making the bad decisions, but you're kind of taking it out and resentful of your client because you're in that position. But
right.
And not here at BMS.
No.
No, if we take it out on you, it's because you fucking deserve it. Not for any other reason, and one of which is working like a slave. It just means you're an asshole. All right, let's continue, Danielle.
But what I wanted to, the point I'm trying to get to is it doesn't matter what level you're at in this game. Is interestingly enough, everybody gets to that point where they can sell themselves into slavery at every price point, and everybody, I find myself doing it and like repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And that's when I'm like, this is not working. I have to go back to what is working and kind of like adjusting my prices and valuing my time and kind of going back to that direction. I'm not going to go that far because I feel like we're going to talk more about that.
We are going to talk more
We're
about
going to talk more about that.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump into.
I just wanted to. The only point I was trying to make right there was just is nobody. There is not one stylist that this topic does not relate to at any level. So tune in, no matter where you work. I don't care if you're in a small town. I don't care if you're a celebrity stylist in LA. We are never done learning, and this is something that I think that everybody can relate to, and we can all learn from.
So our focus today is the topic of profit. If you've been following the show, we're going to have a different focus every single week. We started our very first episode. The pilot was kind of setting the stage and the groundwork for what this show was all about and why it mattered. Second show we went into, episode number 2, was we talked about the idea of power and how your capacity as an artist and as a businessman or woman is affecting all of your production. And then the third episode we went into was production, and we talked about marketing, and we talked about the marketing mindset in our last episode. And in this episode, we're going to talk about profit, which means we're going to actually discuss and lock arms on a bunch of different topics. We're going to talk today about money as a general conversation. We're going to take that topic and we're going to move it further. We're going to take money as a general conversation and link that up to pricing inside of your salon. Then we're going to take that a little bit further from pricing in the salon, and we're going to take that to creating greater margins based upon unique niches and methodology for doing hair, which is actually an effective price point. And then we're going to take that even further with an idea of all of this is horse shit if you don't track your numbers. And the chief assassin, I like saying that, assassin, I don't know why I like saying that. Chief assassin is going to be here is Coach Ani. She's ruthless, and we're going to talk about tracking your numbers and why if you don't track your numbers, you're back to being a slave again. So we're going to come back, money. Raised with the topic of money. Let's come over to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico. Actually, not in Puerto Rico. It's like 2 years in Puerto Rico. You can barely even claim Puerto Rico now. You have so many years here in the U.S. It's like barely. It's like a watered-down Puerto Rico.
I think you just like to say Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
My sass would disagree with you. It's
Yes.
very Puerto Rican.
Yes, for sure. Okay, good. Give us the story about money that you were raised with as a person, because this affects who you are and how you were raised as a person. Your belief about money actually affects the way that you experience money as an artist and as a business person. It's not just something that was given to you like today. Like you had a history and a way you were raised with money that affected the way that you saw money. So we're going to start with Puerto Rico. Then we're going to come across and we're going to talk to Danielle, and then we're going to come back to Coach Val on this one. But Coach Ani, get us started off here. Talk about money just as a conversation. What were the beliefs that you were brought up with around just the topic of money?
I think it's interesting because my parents, not that they have different beliefs in money, but I think they handle money a little bit differently. My dad he's always worked, 2 jobs, and not always worked 2 jobs, but he worked 2 jobs to provide for us and his 3 kids and his wife and everything. And my mom worked for a little bit as well, but took care of the kids. And my mom is of the belief that you shouldn't deny yourself things. Obviously keep it under a limit, but she's like, if you've been dying over a pair of shoes and you fucking want them, she's like, just get them, because she feels like if you keep denying yourself stuff, that's what you keep, like what you bring to your life. And my dad is much more so like, okay, well, do you need 100th pair of shoes? Because I feel like maybe you don't. So I think between them, there's a really good balance of my mom being like, calm down, it's okay to splurge a little, and my dad being like, or maybe not that much. That's cool too. So, but even with that, I've worked since I was 16. I've always had a job. I went to school. They instilled a very strong belief of a good work ethic with me, and I know I get it from my parents.
All right. Okay. So we came to Puerto Rico, and now we're going to come to the other side. We're going to come we're going to come to El Ciudad de Sal.
Do you even know where I'm from?
You are from Salt Lake City, Utah.
No, I was like wondering.
You're from my dreams.
I was wondering if you know my background.
I do know your background. You're from Holiday, Utah.
No, like you always like my
Your heritage?
my heritage. Yeah.
No, you don't, because
Why
you were
don't I get
born.
anything
You were
cool?
born
Why
in
don't
Salt
I
Lake
get,
City.
like-
Ani was born in Puerto Rico. You were not born in
Okay,
Ireland,
well,
Scotland,
don't
London,
say Salt Lake City with an accent
Japan,
because it's not as cool.
China. All right, so let's go. Give it to us.
Okay.
History with money in your family, Danielle. Go.
I would say kind of similar to Ani. Like my mom was always more like, hey, like want nice. Maybe that's the difference between like male and female. So do you know what I mean? Like guys are kind of more logical and women are more like, oh, just buy it. Maybe that's why they like hair extensions so much. No, my background, I would say. As far, what do you want specifically? Like how I was raised with money? Like that
The
thought
first
part?
time you rode a big wheel. I'd like to hear about
Okay.
that. No,
Well, there was
actually,
this
I'd
one
like to hear
time-
about the concept of money. I love you had an ADD moment there. That was beautiful. All right, let me reel you back in here for a
Oh,
moment. We all love you.
man.
You're beautiful. You're such an artist. Okay,
work with my
come
hands.
I know. Come back to the topic here. Raised with money. Like what? How did your mom and dad deal with money? Because this affected how you deal with money in some
I
ways today.
feel like I lived in a very conservative state. But I always felt like we were raised like middle to upper class. I always felt like we had nice things, we were taken care of. But I always worked since the time I was 14. I feel like my parents would. My dad's kind of same thing. I'd be like, Dad, can I have $10? He's like, no. And my mom's like, oh yeah, here's $30, whatever. So like, I feel like my parents weren't like overly shelling out the cash, but at the same time, my mom would take me shopping, buy me nice things, and my dad would be like, why'd you buy her that? Like, so, but my parents are both entrepreneurs. They both worked hard, and it was kind of, I think with us kids, it was just like balancing, like they worked hard, so they didn't want to like totally spoil us and like taught us some stuff. I don't know. So that's kind of my background, is like I was kind of more taught to work, and but I like nice things as well, like my mom. Thanks, Mom.
So we've got two backstories, and your backstory matters, right? We can talk all day long about being a big money stylist, but if we don't look at the backstory of what you're dealing with, right, both the good and the not so good, the quality in teaching and training that your parents gave you about money growing up, and the environment and culture you were brought up in, and also the impact on you with work ethic. We've heard two things here. We've heard from Puerto Rico. We've heard work ethic. In past shows, we've learned about her reading addiction and why the reading came. We've also got Danielle giving us a rundown about kind of her environment and what she was raised with. Again, working when she was young. Now we're going to come back over to
One quick thing.
Okay,
I feel like, really quick, my perception and backstory behind money actually changed when Garrett and I got married, because he's you were like in banking and mortgages and all this stuff, and we were young. I got married at 20, and I felt like we were pretty successful for a young married couple.
Yep.
And then like shit went sideways, and like literally like rug pulled out from underneath us. And I would always say like I was like taken care of, and so I married this guy, and like always felt taken care of. And so for the first time, I have a lot of pride, and I would never go to my parents or anybody in my family and be like, hey, can I borrow some money? Like that's just my personality. Like I literally remember contemplating when shit went sideways for us, like, okay, I know cereal's cheap. I know Top Ramen's cheap. Like I was literally like, it's sad like when I think about it now, but like I think that's for the first time when I literally was like, wow, I had a different perspective on money and work, and things shifted for me then. So if I were to like tell a little bit more of my backstory, it was like I had a kind of we had a very painful time period where I really grew up and learned a lot about myself and Garrett and I's relationship as well.
And this impacted your entire story with money too.
Yes, and it impacted my brand. It impacted my story with money. It impacted where I'm at right now. So like the upbringing of how I was brought up, sure, that lays down some groundwork, I guess you could say. But who I am right now, I don't think would have happened if what we went through didn't happen. Because it was like I'll just share really quick. I literally, like, when I was in hair school, I was like, I'm just going to get married. And, like, the Utah thing was like, hair is just, like, a hobby. And, like, I can do my girlfriend's hair and my grandma's hair. It's just, like, some clothes money. And, like, it'll be so fun. I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom, but do hair as a hobby. And so that's, like, literally what I was like. I'm just going to be a kept wife and do hair as a hobby. And that was like a real like kick in the face when it's like, no, you're not. Like literally I felt like the rug got pulled underneath me, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be a kept wife? Should I have 2 kids? But I think that's what's really molded me to who I am now. And we always talk about, like, sometimes you go through shit in life and sometimes how you're raised and sometimes trials in your life. Really, it creates a lot of strength in a person. So anyways, that's my backstory with us that I felt like I needed to share.
It's a beautiful backstory. I appreciate you sharing it. 100% of it was true. So this entire conversation of your past story affects your current reality. We're going to finish this up, and then we're going to move into some other topics, but we're going to finish this up with Coach Val. Coach Val, give it to us. Talk to us about the backstory. Father was a police officer. Mother, give us a roll game here. How did this roll down in your family with the topic of money? What did you leave as far as a belief in money?
We lived very conservatively. Everything was on a budget. My mom would spend every day after whatever she was doing and go in the check register. So I remember knowing how to balance a checkbook down to the penny.
Yes.
From a really young age, like junior high. What the fuck's a junior high? Need to know how to balance a check register. So that's I've always been budget conscious. I think probably because of that. So I never felt comfortable. I was never denied money, but I never went to my parents and was like, can I have $30 to go buy an outfit? It just wasn't talked about and it wasn't done. But we would go on family vacations. But to me, it seemed like in our house, family was a source of stress, or money was a source of stress, that topic. So I just remember being uncomfortable about it. It just seems like they're always fighting about money. I don't know. But it led me to be conservative for a long time.
So this play then, I want you to look at the story that each of us had as kids was embedded in us about what was possible. I came from a place in which we did not have much money either. I couldn't ask for, even if I asked for $30, there wasn't $30 to have. So my parents could tell me no because there literally was no money to have. We always had enough to survive, and I didn't ever experience my life as being bad at all. And the 2 great gifts that came out of that was work ethic and a belief in myself. My mom said, if you want it, you can go get it. And if you're willing to work for it, you can get it. And there's nothing that can stop you from doing it. And so inside of that place, while we didn't have the resource, what we did have was I was given the gift to work my fucking ass off. That's it. And one thing you'll find common amidst all the successful artists and big money stylists and individuals that train here with us is that without a work ethic, it doesn't really matter. All the shit that we're talking about doesn't matter. If you're a lazy ass, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. If you're a person who takes this as a hobby and you just are a hobby hairstylist on the sideline with a kept husband or wife that's taking care of you, it's not going to work. But if you're an artist who knows that it's time to change and you know it's time for you to not only get to live your art at a deeper level, but it's also time for you to begin to move forward inside of your game, I want you to do 2 things. 1, head to bigmoneystylist.com. Watch that movie after you get done listening to the show. And number 2, I want you to stick with us here in this conversation we're going to jump into next. The next conversation we're having is around pricing. Now, this is a topic that comes up over and over and over again. I've gotten to watch this with all of our artists. I've gotten to watch this with Danielle, Val, Ani, the entire team. I've watched them go through it. I've had Danielle come to me about it. I've watched the emotion around it. I've watched the expression of pain around it. Coach Ani, we're going to start with you. Coach Ani, give us a game here. In your mind, why is the idea of raising your prices as a stylist, why is this such a painful reality in your experience?
I think part of it is that we do see our job as something fun and it's amazing and we get to have a good time and talk to people. And I feel like a lot of stylists really do love their job. And because we love it, and I feel sometimes even the better you get at it, the harder time you have raising your prices. Because then you're like, well, I love my job. I'm good at it. I'm fast at it. Why should I charge more? I love it so much. I'll do it for free. Well, no one gets a job to do shit for free. But that's the mentality we end up with, which is, I love it so much. I don't want to charge them more. But they're so nice to me. They gave me a Christmas card once. They're my friend. And then we're like, all my clients are my friends. And then all of a sudden you're never charging anything for 10 years. And you're like, why am I so poor? Oh, because I have 100 friends, but no money. So that's good.
Awesome
Okay.
friends.
Yeah, you're like, thank you very much, friends. Coach Val, give it to us. Continue with this. Why is this topic of raising your price is such a challenge? Coach Ani gave us a great setup. What else you got?
You can't hide behind a corporation. It's you. So when you're doing the price increase, you're not the whole I can't even think
Danielle
of a picture.
made me.
Bloomingdale's went up,
Yeah.
It's you yourself staring at someone in the face or an email, however you go about doing it. And it's very personal. And not only that, there's kickback from it where people are like, well, why are you doing that? Like, they just think you're pocketing the money. So it's just a very confrontational situation, and there's so much emotion put behind it at first. Once you look at it as like a business and you go that way, you're like, oh, cool, you gave me a discount to Anthropology, but that didn't come out of your actual paycheck. Me giving you a discount is coming out of my actual paycheck. There's a huge difference, but I think just the emotion that comes behind it, the transparency of like, it's just you and your talent is very like vulnerable to say like, to put a price on like your art, because it is subjective and it is like, I don't know, there's something very vulnerable about it. And to know that you can get kickback from people, it's an intimidating thing, but it is a business and you should charge. And like Ani said, I think a part that's hard for me sometimes, I'm like, well, it's getting easier. So I feel like I can't charge more if you're good at something, but really it's like the opposite. Like you're getting better and you're better at it. You can charge more, but it's like, but it was easy. I can't charge to do that. Like it wasn't hard for me, you know? But that's the totally wrong mindset.
I used to have a story because there's a lot of hair extensions out there and especially when I first got into hair, I'd like pop in a movie because it took me like 8 hours to do it. And my mindset was like, well, this client will only pay $2,000 because it's taking 2 hours. You know what I mean? And then even with MBR, like when I started doing it more and more and more, I didn't charge that much because I was getting a client done in literally 2.5 to 3 hours for like a huge transformation. And I didn't value my time. And I didn't realize, I think a lot of artists don't realize like how good they are. And like, especially when they're getting more and more experience, like you said, they get faster and they don't really, realize it. They stay stuck in this like price point and they think that, well, I'm getting faster, so I can't like increase my prices and things like that.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Why is this so emotional?
I think Val like really framed that really well. Like it's not like a big company. It is like, hey, I'm raising my prices. And it's like a lot of times it's not like, oh, I went to a lot of color classes, so I get to raise my prices. It's just like one day you're like, hey, these are my prices. And it's true. Like the client like kind of looks at it like, oh, okay. And even though they're like, oh, no, I understand, they leave. I've seen it. Like still to this day, they leave being like, okay. Like they leave kind of a little bit like sad. And we don't like that. We're used to people like leaving like, I look amazing. You know what I mean? So when you've had a client for so long and you genuinely connect with them, even your clients that are super cool with it and you're like, hey, I had a price increase, they leave feeling like, okay. You know, and I hate that feeling. Like
everyone else gets a job, they get a raise, and they get to celebrate. And we're going out for drinks tonight. I got a raise, and I'm like, I made 15 people cry.
Yes, literally. And they'll come back, and their energy's fine, and they know. But that first initial price raise, literally, they're like, they leave, and you go home, and you're like, well, my day sucked ass because I raised my prices today, and all my clients.
I still got to tell 30 more people.
And so I think that's why it's hard and it's emotional, is because even if they love their hair, there's this moment when a client leaves, and she's like. And it could, like, you can just sense it and you're like, oh, and you're like, and so I always have to tell myself when I have that moment or when I have that price increase or when I have to remind myself, you're running a business. And even if a client asks, I just tell them, I'm like, yep, my costs went up, this is the new prices for this year, whatever it is. And I just make it not like, hey, I love you and I'm sorry, and never apologize, but to kind of like, for me, just kind of being like, yep, like, always tell yourself in your mind, this is a business. And not to say that it's not hard. And then once you get over that, like Val said, like once you get over that, like, then you're like, oh my God, why didn't I do this a while ago? Because I think for me, when I know I need to raise my prices, there's always like a few clients that trickle through that I'm like, well, she's been with me, so she gets the VIP deal. Remember? She gets the VIP price until it gets to the point where I'm like, I can't give any more VIP prices out. I'm sorry. And it is
all
what
out.
it is. We're all out of VIP pricing for this month, so it's just different. And I think that goes for probably everybody in our industry at every level.
So we're going to take this question of raising prices. We're going to take it two ways. The first way we're going to take this is what's going on, what's messed up in the mind of the client, because society has been trained, and so all artists are going to face this. And I'm going to come back over again to Coach Johnny on this one, and we're going to roll back through, and then I'm going to start the question the other direction, come back with Danielle, and come back across the other way. But let's talk for a few minutes about what society has been taught to think about hairstylists, which contributes to the shit show. And then we're going to go to the second half, which is let's talk about the shit show going on inside of artists that actually feeds the bullshit going on. So, Coach Ani, what are your thoughts on this?
I think society-wise, people look at hairstyles and think, it's not a real job. It's just a hobby. Or I love that when people say, what do you do? I'm like, I do hair. They're like, oh. I'm like, okay, well, that was very condescending. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. But it is. We're looked down upon like we're just honestly complete fucking idiots, and that's why we did hair.
Yeah, you couldn't pick a real college or a degree to go with, so you went with hair.
Oh, you went to hair
You're
school.
one of those.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's exactly it, though. We laugh because it's true. That's the funny part. But we are just very looked down upon, like we are too stupid to go to real school, and that all we do is just sit around gossiping inside a salon doing not actually anything.
Just chewing gum, popping our gum.
Yep.
Have you ever chewed gum in the salon?
No, but I thought I was watching this movie not too long
I'd like
ago.
to stop her right now. She
what?
chews gum every day.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
I chew
okay.
gum. I chew gum. No, but
I thought she was
I
about
got
to say
this.
like she does.
No,
doesn't.
I
was
chew
like, what are you
gum.
talking
I don't
about?
smack
chew
it.
gum all the
But
time.
I was thinking of this movie really quick, and this girl was like in like New Jersey, snapping her gum and twisting her finger, and she's like, got her Jersey accent, and the conversation they were having.
Isn't
and
that hairspray?
I don't. Well, it could be that
movie
too.
Hairspray?
But how they like position the stylist is like just a big airhead.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, but this is funny, but so it's like, I don't know why it's thought it's so looked down on. Like even today, like I'll meet like it's hard because I feel like I'm a young, successful stylist and I'll meet women entrepreneurs or other women that are like business people themselves. And they look down on me, like even clients, and they're like, oh, she's doing my hair. And I want to be like, bitch, I made more money than you last month. So pipe down. But
That's gonna be the quote of the month.
I'm just saying, like,
bitch, I made more money than
I
you.
have to
Pipe down.
I hate it. Like, I hate that our industry is looked down like that. But I can't say that I'm not guilty and didn't look down at myself as the hobbyist, like I share in all my stories. But it's time to like change that. It's time to look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So, Coach Val, talk to me about what you see going on in the mindset of people. What's a belief of clients that tends to contribute to not only the slavery of an artist, but at the same time contributes to the insanity of just being offended when a stylist raises his or her prices?
Yeah, somehow we've given them like all the control from the get-go. So they control our schedule, they control when we're working, and then they're so entitled to be so vocal about what they think we're doing with our business. I wasn't asking you if I could raise my price. I'm letting you know what I'm doing. But in other jobs, you don't have to do that. But the client is there, and they feel entitled to tell you, well, but why are you raising your prices?
It's not for me, right?
You're not doing anything like extra. You're cutting off the same amount of hair. I didn't get more hair. I'm like, oh, this is so aggressive. I really like it. This is fun. Can I keep doing your hair? You're one of my faves.
I love that. Well, if I get a trim, is it cheaper than getting a haircut? I'm like, what the?
Yeah, I'm literally charging by hair now. Like one hair, I'm just going to trim 3, and then you get a discount.
That's why stylists had to create a la carte pricing because every time they'd go to raise their prices, people were like, did you cut 3 hairs or 2 hairs this week?
Can I just have 1 layer? No, your haircut is not going to be cheaper if you get 1 layer, and 1 layer is not a thing.
It will be more because it's so ugly. That's what's going to happen.
Because I'm going to have actually take shitty pictures of you that do me no good in marketing sense. Okay, Danielle, wrap us home on this topic so we can switch the other direction.
All right.
What are your thoughts on this? What's going on in society? Clients they've just been trained from the time they're young. We can't even really be angry at them. Because they've been taught.
Fault. It's our fault.
So tell me
fault.
tell me what's going on in society with a client that actually encourages stylists to stay stuck.
What goes on?
Like how is a normal client, our prospective society, the marketplace has been taught, trained, and educated from the time they were young to look at stylists from a certain place,
right? And
that has come with a whole bunch of belief systems. What are you seeing there inside of that for you? Like what's going on inside the mind of the marketplace that continues to keep making it difficult?
I can get it somewhere cheaper.
Okay, expand on that.
So I see this happen a lot, and that's why I love having MBR, and I encourage everybody to have a niche, because there's always like this in our industry. There's always this like price shopping game, and where I'm from in Utah specifically, it like women will they get a high off shopping for the next, like they like women like bragging about getting nice shit for cheap prices. I don't know why. There's like some kind of high in it. And so I think like maybe that goes on in the client's mindset is like, oh, she raised my prices, but that's fine because Sally Sue down the road probably does as good of a job, so I can just go there and get a better price. So like, I get it, I respect you and you raise your prices, but I can go here because she's charging less. And maybe that goes on in the mindset of a client. They're thinking, well, if it's just business for you, it's just business for me, and I'll go over here.
Okay. So I'm gonna frame this.
That's
in
how I
way.
was just thinking.
That's perfect. I love it. It's exactly what's going on. And what I'm hearing is the client believes that they're actually the prize. Right? They think they're the prize. They think, hey, I'm the winner. Winner, chicken dinner. I am the prize. And this is why they can act as if the artist is replaceable. So if you look at a normal dynamic inside of the relationship between an artist and a client, the artist in hair has not been taught that they are the prize. They have been taught that the client is the prize. Okay, Danielle, I'm going to come to you, and then Val, I'm going to come to you next. Danielle, what are you seeing with this? What do we mean here by this idea? We talk about this inside the Big Money Stylist Mastermind. We talk about it on our events. We train on the systems that change this game. But what's the difference between the client being the prize and you as the artist being the prize? Go.
I don't know. I look at it as like as the artist being the prize, we get to choose who we get to work with, just like the client gets to choose who they get to work with. When I know that how we teach it and when we do our consultations, I am there to validate clients' concerns, but I'm also seeing if it's a good fit if I want to take them on as a client. And it's so interesting. We're kind of taught to just take everything, and we don't really need to do that. And so I think I value my time, and I think of myself as the prize as well as the client, and it has to be a mutual good fit.
Okay. So Val, come to me on this. We talk about this idea of reframing that you are the prize as the artist.
Right.
What does this actually mean?
Well, you get the control back. So the client comes in and they respect you. And when you're the prize, then you get to do what you're good at. You're the artist. You know what their hair needs. But when they're running the show, they're telling you what you want. And then you're in this position of like, oh, okay, I'll do that. But really, you know that that's not good for their hair. You know, so everything's just like ass backwards. So when you take yourself seriously as the artist, you can charge what you're worth, and you know you're the prize. Your client kind of like submits to that, which they actually want. They don't want to come in and tell you, but they've done that for so long. But now clients will like come in and sit in the chair, and we tell them like, this is what would look good on your skin tone. This is what your hair needs. This is what we need to do. And immediately the energy shifts. They go to where they actually want to be. They thought they wanted to come in and tell you what they wanted, but really they wanted to come in and get the best hair ever and come to you, you know? And so you get that control back, and then everyone's happy because you're in your appropriate role. The artist is doing their talent, and the client is leaving with beautiful hair. They don't care how you got there. They just wanted to leave with like pretty hair, you know?
Ani, we did something crazy in the industry, like something that has not ever been done outside of a few hand-selected celebrity artists in LA and New York. We took and repositioned the entire frame with Big Money Stylists. We did it inside of our salons. We've also been training hundreds of stylists just like you. And after what we're going to hear here in just a second, if you know it is time for you to quit fucking around inside of this game as a slave, I want you to head to BigMoneyStylist.com. At BigMoneyStylist.com, you're going to find a movie. That short movie is going to introduce you to what's happening for artists all around the world now inside of our systems, learning how to reframe and reposition their game as an artist by using an interesting frame of requiring a client to apply. Holy shit. What is going on here? Take it away. Give it to us, Coach Ani. What are we talking about here?
Well, I think because commonly, I mean, you go online and you post stuff and clients reach out to you and say, I want a book. And you just say, okay. And you do it. And that's how they always found a hairstylist before. But what we decided to do was completely change that and actually have an application for clients to come and sit in our chair. Now, I will say it's been not well received by some clients. I had one woman once say, I don't mind paying, but a formal vetting process is a bit excessive.
Then go somewhere else.
I really want to say you're part of the reason we have a formal vetting process. But what it came down to is realizing that it came to a point where we're not accepting every single client. We're not taking on every single service. If you want to sit in our chair, we need information about you, because it came to when I first had my application, I was deciding who I wanted to work with for the very first time. And I had never done that before. They said jump. I said how high. They said I want Sunday morning. I'm like, I'll make it work. You know, that's the world we came from. So it was just completely different from that. And I think now it just does reframe the entire process, and they realize that we don't have to take you in our chair. Like and that sounds almost brutal and mean, but that's honestly just the truth of it. If you're with us and you're in our chair and we're doing your hair, it's because we do like you and we chose to work with you, not have you stomp all over us.
And the client wants to be there too. They went through the process and they came, so they're not in there coming with that entitled attitude or that super bossy demeanor. They just come in and they went through the whole process, and the frame is set correctly where you can do your art. You're excited to work with them as the stylist because they went through everything, and they're excited to get like the work's done to them, and they've gone through the whole process. So I think it just sets the tone perfectly for everyone.
Oh yeah, one of the biggest things I noticed is before I actually did BMS, and this was years ago in the salon before, I had a woman come in, and this was maybe like one of the first times I ever kind of put my foot down because I was so irate. She sat down and she's like, this is what I want my hair to look like. I'm like, great, inspiration, love it. She's like, well, I already went on Google, and Google told me to tell you that this is how you should do it. I'm like, is Google a person? Is Google a stylist? Because I don't know who the fuck Google is all of a sudden. But I was like, if we do that, it's going to fry your hair off. She's like, no, I Googled it, and Google said. I'm like, son of a, I'm like, not to Google anymore, that's for sure.
It's interesting. I had a client, she's been with me for a couple years, and it was like right after I rolled out my application process, I guess, not too long ago. And she was like, at first she was like, I was totally offended. She's like, but then I was like, well, this girl must know what she's doing if I have to apply to sit in her chair, which made her even more like intrigued and want to like kind of fill out all the information. And then she was like, wow, I've never had anybody, like I haven't had to fill out an application like this. And then when I got on the consultation and talked to her, she was just like, she was like, okay, cool, I can see why you do these. I'm like, yeah, I need information from you. It's not that weird to have somebody apply now. Now it's like our new norm.
I actually had a woman once tell me, she said, because hair extensions obviously are not $50. Like it comes with a price tag, depending what you're doing. And she actually told me, because we take deposits by phone, when I finished her hair, she goes, I just want you to know, had you not had the system you had before with the applications and the videos and the consultation, she goes, I never would have given you, a stranger that I'd never seen in my life, my credit card number by phone to charge me to come get my hair done. She's like, I loved it though. I'm like, yeah, you do, and your hair.
So let's talk about this, Danielle. You were actually sitting today in a series of consultations with clients who have applied. I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to come to Val. Let's start with you though. What is that experience like to wake up and know you have 6 consultations with individuals ready to give you deposits over the phone?
What does it feel like?
Yeah, what does that feel like compared to what you used to do back when you were, you decided to become a pedicurist?
I feel like I'm just narrowing.
Have you told this story?
The toe wax.
Oh, shut up.
Have you told this toe waxing story?
The queen of upselling.
I want you to, before you go here, I want you to throw yourself under the bus and show how committed you actually were. Take us back to Las Vegas and the time you decided to become an illegal underground
toe waxer?
Pedicure toe waxer. Tell them about how you did that.
When I first started doing hair and we were taught, like, you take everything, you say jump how high, you, like, do everything. And I remember my boss at the time looked at me and was like, I put a pedicure on your books. I was like, I don't do fucking pedicures. Gross. I don't know. I don't even like feet. She's all, I put a pedicure on your books. And I actually liked her. And I was like, damn you, Debbie. Damn you, Debbie.
I remember Debbie. Debbie was great. She was awesome.
So anyways, I get this pedicure, and was it just any pedicure. It was like the hairiest toes I'd ever seen in my entire life. I literally am like filing and dry heaving at the same time. I'm like, And then I was like, how can I get this hair out of the way so I can finish this pedicure? And I was like, we offer complimentary toe waxing. Totally offended the lady. She didn't talk to me the rest of the time, didn't even look at me, and I was like, God, shave your fucking hairy toes. Okay.
All right, so back.
Anyway.
This is the frame that I want you to come from. Long before Danielle would wake up to a glorious beach
those
view
toenails that were
and,
long and green with hair
at
on them.
consultations and individuals lining up ready to come sit in her chair and give her deposits over the phone. There was the toe waxing episode. So now that we've gotten that out of the way,
gross.
talk about what it's like to go from toe waxing options to waking up to 6 to 7 consultations every 2 days a week.
Not for toe waxes, that's for sure. No, it's amazing. I think it's my new norm, and I don't even think about it. I'll literally see the applications rolling in, and I'm like, oh, sweet. It's just like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's like the song that plays in my head when I see them coming in. But what's cool is through the whole application period, it has a series of questions and everything. And so I even know if they're going to be a good fit. And then I do a call with them, and they're already on fire. And it's we already they've already researched me, and I can already read about them. And I'm like, it's just the happiest place as a stylist. You're like, oh, we're already friends, kind of, in a way, And if we're not friends, you're not sitting in my chair. So,
So Val, you came into this new when you came into the salon with us, and here we're saying we're going to application. What was the initial feeling with this when you first did this and we started requiring applications before appointments?
Well, it seemed really odd. I'm like, why would, like we were saying in the beginning of the show, why would you turn down money? So I'm thinking, how would we turn anyone away? And now it makes me laugh whether we're turning away, people who aren't a good candidate for extensions or people who aren't a good candidate for the BMS program because of their entitled attitude or their work ethic. Well, I don't have time to do the pre-training.
You're cool.
We have no problem saying no worries. Best of luck. You're not a good fit for our class. It's so our normal now. But in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, why would we turn it? Who cares what they're like? Let's just take their money. Now I see why. Now that we've dealt with a few crazies, I get it.
So bottom line, let's come on to the following topic on this one. Going to application in that place, how does that actually made you more profitable?
Oh, my time is way more valued now because now I'm not taking on kids cuts and men's cuts and 30 minutes here and 45 minutes here for $15. I was like, okay, if you're going to sit in my chair and you're going to apply, if you're going to apply and come sit in my chair, you're here for a reason. And that's why I started slowly cutting out, all services, but the application, just like Val said earlier, they want to sit in your chair. I'm not chasing clients anymore, begging or trying to convince them and sell myself well, you'd really love my balayage. These highlights would be great. The smudge would look wonderful on you. I don't have to do that now because by the time they're filling out the application, they're wanting to do this.
All right, so we're going to keep rolling with this. Danielle, I'll come over to you to set up our next conversation with this. So we have this idea of application, but in order to do this, we have to start looking at the way that we do our business a little different, which is the idea of a niche. Mm-hmm. Talk about how niching down actually gets you rich. And then niching gets you rich, bitch.
Too far.
Cross the line. Cross the
it was
line.
good. I liked it.
Niching down, get you richy, bitchy. All right. So Danielle.
There's our theme song.
There's our theme song. It's going to be the introduction to the show from here on. So Danielle, talk about niche and how Natural Beauty Rose has become the number one niche inside the game for artists, and why we have hundreds of artists coming to the Big Money Stylist programs because of the Natural Beauty Rose method. In niching. Go.
I think it's important to have a niche because when you choose a niche, it allows you to get really, really good at one thing. I would never want to go to a plastic surgeon. I've said this before. I'd never want to go to a plastic surgeon for a boob job who specializes in noses. How's that going to look? I don't know.
You know, some pointy boobs.
Yes. There's some slopey ones or pointy. I don't know. But either way, it would not be well. It would not go well. So, anyways, why do I always have these ADD moments?
It's all right. This is who you are. We love you for
I
it.
know.
So let's come back to what it is. We're talking about niches.
So it's important to have a niche so that you can become really good at what it is you're offering. And clients always want somebody who specializes in that one thing. The other thing, too, is it allows you to charge more if you're really, really good at something. If you're an expert at something, you're not just like a general, I was going to say general doctor, but if you're not like a general, you can charge more. Like a plastic surgeon who specializes in nose jobs is going to charge more than somebody who caters to everybody. That's just how it is. And so that's why I think it's important to have a niche. And specifically with hair extensions, it was one of those things that I was like, at the time when I was like, I'm not living in LA or New York or like huge cities at the time. And I don't know if, I mean, I'm high priced with color, but I just don't know if I can get away with charging $1,200 for a color. I just don't know. I mean, that's a stretch. That's a stretch even in LA. I mean, color correction, sure, $1,200 later. I would say the average price in LA for a color is $600 to $800.
Yep.
So, but even that, I was like, gosh, how can I make what they're making in LA? And I wanted hair extensions for myself, but I also realized like this is something that no matter where you lived, you could make celebrity stylists pay. And I was like, but I don't want to be doing hair extensions for 8 hours a day because then you're not making celebrity stylists pay. So how do we take what the celebrity stylists are doing, and how do we apply it to anyone who lives anywhere in any town by having a niche? Because by also having a niche, you can get clients to fly in, and I've experienced it firsthand, and clients will search for that person who's offering that niche or that specialty in their area regardless of where they live. Think again, take it back to a plastic surgeon. If you live in a small town but you hear about Dr. So-and-so who's only a 2-hour flight away, guess what? You're going to hop on that plane and you're going to go 2 hours to the closest specialist that you're looking for. So it's important to have a niche no matter where you live, but it's more important to have a niche, and especially in our industry, because you can make money. Great celebrity stylists pay living anywhere, and I've proven it in small towns, medium towns, and now here in Laguna Beach, California. So I know it works. I know it's important to have a niche.
So Val, we've been focused on this for a while. You were our first coach with me and Danielle to come into the program and start coaching with us and leading others to this path. We're here with Big Money Stylists and Natural Beauty Rose training systems. Talk about what you've seen happen to individuals' lives by choosing to niche down. You know, one of the big pushes we have is get rid of men's cuts, kids' cuts, start eliminating the shit that doesn't work, and ultimately get to an MBR-only salon, which is where tons of our stylists are going right now. Talk about what you've seen as a coach, and then Coach Ani, I'm going to come to the same question here in a minute. What have you seen as a coach when it comes to just the change in artists' lives by the simple game of reframing them as a prize and then choosing the methodology of Natural Beauty Rose and niching down?
I mean, it sounds so stupid and cheesy, but their general quality of life is just better, everything about it. So you find that niche and you get really good at it, well, you get confident at that. Mm-hmm. And then you're able to charge more, and then you can be more effective with your time, like you were saying. You know, if you were going to be in my chair, like I need to make the most out of it. So you're not draining yourself doing kids cuts for a little bit of money. You know, you're doing the extensions, you're really good at it, your confidence is good, you're able to charge more, and then with that comes like the freedom. So yes, the money is amazing, but now you have this like time freedom where you could hang out with your husband, you could be with your kids, you could have some sort of balance in your life, which is what I feel like everyone that comes into our program is lacking in the beginning. Mm-hmm. There's no balance, and then they come, they learn the method, they get good at the niche, they get their clients, they get focused 100% on NBR, whether it's just their business or their whole salons, which we're seeing now, which is super exciting. And they're just having this overall balance in life where they're not burnout, they're creative, they're making the money, and they're able to like actually live and enjoy life. I know people say money doesn't buy happiness, but I would kind of beg to differ.
Kind of does.
It bought me these shoes and I'm pretty happy.
But like it gives you money, gives you like
That's just what poor people
stress. It alleviates stress and it gives you more freedom, and that essentially does give you happiness. So
absolutely.
In facto, money does buy happiness.
So what would you add to this, Coach Ani? What are you seeing here inside the lives of our students as they have chosen to niche down with the methodology of Natural Beauty Rose, have gone the direction of MBR-only style living, in making more and working less? What has been your experience as a coach and trainer?
I mean, it really does come down to freedom, because I think as stylists, we're taught you need to work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, get up before the sun rises, and then be done way after the sun sets. But okay, so you might think you're making good money. I can guarantee you're not, because I was in that place once. I'm like, I make so much money. Then I'm like, I'm so poor. Why? What's happening? So you think you're making all this money, but then you have 1 day off a week, kind of, and the only thing you want to do is sleep. So great, you're up all day long, you're working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, you're 1 day off, you're sleeping and doing laundry. That doesn't sound like a good life. So when they niche down and start doing just NBR and charging more for their time and really figuring out their business plan, I went from working 6 days a week, 12-hour days, to working 3 days a week with just 3 clients. Those are 3 9-hour days I worked. I had more time to not only invest in myself and my personal life, but my business as well, just to keep growing. So like Val said, their life in general just gets so much better, and it's so much more enjoyable at that point.
Okay. Well done. I was just looking at how amazing you three look on camera. Okay. So we're going to take that space and we're going to wrap up today's show with one final topic. One final topic. Topic is tracking your numbers.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun,
Ani just got a boner.
Rock
I
hard.
love
Thank
it.
you.
Rock hard boner. Welcome to Big Money Stylist, where we literally hold back nothing, and it appears erections are part of
We
it.
like to keep it very
We like to
professional.
keep it very professional here. This is a very professional show. No explicit lyrics, documentation required. Okay, so let's talk about tracking numbers. And I'm going to start. This will be an entire show for today. We're going to introduce as a concept because this is one of the big angles of being able to actually stay profitable and make the kind of money that you need, make the kind of money that you want, is to actually be committed enough to be in the game in tracking your numbers. So, Coach Ani, you have actually, I believe, come from the god of tracking money. I'm pretty sure you were born by a calculator and a spreadsheet. This is something you do. You track. So we're going to start with you because Danielle does not naturally track things. She had to learn this. I did not naturally track things. I had to learn this. Val tracked some things. She was good. She could balance that checkbook. But then there's you, which is just a whole nother level of tracking. And so when we implemented this across all of our protocols inside of Big Money Stylist, there was a big change. Talk to us about just the principle of tracking numbers and why, as an artist, this is so important.
Oh, because like I said, we assume that the more time we spend inside the salon and the busier we are, the more money we're making. And I had that same mentality when I was working 6 days a week, 12-hour days. I would leave and I'm like, I for sure made a ton. And then I'd look and be like, where's the rest of the money that I thought I made today? And that's a huge problem. So I'm a super psycho numbers person. I track my income. I always have. That's just who I am, because if you don't know where you're actually at, you have no idea where you can go. So at the time, had I not, because now I have my pre-NBR numbers and then my post-NBR numbers, and I can look back and say, holy shit, at the time I was making like $40 an hour if I was lucky. Good for me, which I'm sure someone here is listening saying, oh, I would love to make $40 an hour. No, you don't. Not when it's 12 hours a day. You're exhausted and you still feel poor. But once I switched over to NBR and I started tracking all that, I'm like, holy shit, I'm making $200-300 an hour. I'm making $1,500 per client. Like, this is insane. And it showed me that the life that I thought I had really well, not that it was a bad life, but the numbers don't lie. They show a very clear story. You can't lie to yourself. You can't convince yourself that you're happy or with whatever relationship you're in. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying the numbers, they never lie, and they give you a very clear path of where you're at and where you want to go. If you're saying, okay, I want to make $200,000 next year, you can make a plan and say, this is what it looks like with X amount of clients, how many hours I have to work, what I have to charge, and then you have an actual plan.
I think people like to live in la la land and not do their numbers because it gives them an excuse to not build bigger shit. Like, I know I've been guilty of that. I'll be like, I made like $10 million last year. Like, not really, but I'll be like, yeah. And
I was
I'll
like, where
kind
are you
of,
storing that cash, lady?
right? No, like I'll have this ego about it. Like, oh, I do so good. And then when I actually break down my numbers based on like what I'm pouring back into my business, I'm like, oh shit, it's not as good as I thought. But it's not like, it's good to look at it and be like, okay, well, clearly I need to stop living in la la land. And I think a lot of people, and again, I'm throwing myself under the bus saying I do this too. It's like ignorance is bliss, but not in this case, because if you don't know your numbers, you're just kind of a poser, I guess. You're just living in la la land, and that doesn't really help you get to like what your true capability of what you could really be doing.
And I feel like numbers also show you if what you're doing is working or if it's not.
Yeah,
because a lot of people say, they're like, well, I did all of this marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how much more did you make? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Great. Then you have no idea if that actually worked, and you just wasted all of that money. But when you can go through and say, okay, this past 3 weeks, this is what I did. I got this many more leads, this many more clients. I made this much more money. You're like, well, that fucking works. How do I make it better now?
Right.
If you don't know where, like I always say, if you don't know where you're at, you have no idea where you can actually go.
Right.
So we have opened Pandora's box. As you can see, Coach Ani getting lit on fire.
That's my favorite.
Literally a fire coming from her ass
So
in
warm
that
now.
chair. So this topic is going to be one for our next time that we find our way back around to the profit topic. We're going to go into an entire show on tracking. That won't happen for a month because you remember at the beginning of the show we talked about our outline here. Our outline's really simple. Week 1, which we've already shot, is on the conversation of power. Week 2 is on production, which was our last episode. Week 3, inside of every month, is going to be on profit, which is today. And our next show, next week, which will top off our 4th week of this first series, is going to be on the topic of
Protection.
protection,
That's
which
not
is ultimately the systems and the automation necessary to pull all of this off. So we're going to wrap up today's show. We're going to get some final thoughts from your hosts. I'm going to give you one final charge to head to bigmoneystylist.com. If you're an artist here, we'd encourage you to subscribe to this show as well as leave us a review in iTunes. We are available inside of iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. And if you'd like to just find availability to the video, the audio, the text, the show notes, and everything else involved with the show, well, you can head straight over to bigmoneystylistnow.com to find access to those. So let's come over here. We're going to start with Coach Val. Coach Val, give it to us. Final thoughts here, ending this profit episode here at the Big Money Stylist Show.
Well, I think like the tracking the numbers thing is like super important. I think as artists, we don't take money like super seriously because we're all about the art, but you have to be a business person. So keep track of your numbers, charge what you're worth, and come join us at BMS because we're going to make your life so much better.
We're a real good time, guys.
I love it. Coach Ani, continue. Give us your final thoughts for today's show.
At the end of the day, everyone wants to say that they don't care about money and it's not important, but you do. Everybody cares. It pays for your house, for your car, the food for your children, food for you, clothes on your back. And don't be embarrassed saying that you want to make more money and that you want a better life. We shy away from that because they're like, oh, I don't need more.
it,
Yeah, but everybody needs more and everybody wants more. And there's no shame or embarrassment in thinking it or saying it out loud because we say it all the time. I have a great fucking life. Doesn't mean I don't want to push for more. So never be embarrassed.
Be
Danielle, bring it home
real.
for us.
Be real with yourself. I think that like how Ani touched base. Well, I don't really need that. I don't really need that. I get it. Like at some level, if you're at a certain level and you say you don't need things, but if you get to the next level, you would never go back to the previous level. Like it is what it is. And it's not just, I mean, yeah, money, we were talking about money makes happiness and money creates a better life. But also too, like you have no idea how many more people you impact in your life when you are raising the bar for yourself. So again, it goes back to last week's topic when I was like, don't be fucking selfish. Like to say like, I don't need those things. You have to stop thinking about yourself. Stop saying you don't need these things. It's not just about you. So if I were to close this show again, is just take a good look at where you're at. Take a good look at your numbers. Stop bullshitting yourself and hold yourself to a higher standard because it's not just about you and you have no idea how many other people it will affect along with yourself. So hold yourself to a higher standard.
So this question is for you. What standard are you committed to holding your life to? We would love to invite you here to level up your game both behind the chair with the methodology of Natural Beat Rose and in front of the chair as a powerful businessman or businesswoman with the BMS systems. The way you'll be able to pull that off is head to bigmoneystylist.com. Watch that short documentary movie there and submit an application for one of the upcoming 2-day intensives coming here in Laguna Beach, California. There are 16 of them in 2018. We have spots available in just under 10 of them. But again, we are sold out almost until the end of the spring. Would love to have you part of that experience. Thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate your reviews and subscribes here inside of iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud. And remember, for access to all of the show notes, tips, tricks, and etc. here with this particular podcast, being able to watch it, listen to it, or read it, head on over to bigmoneystylistnow.com. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Garrett J. White. I am simply the arm candy here at this show. And thank you so much for being here. I am a man bag. I'm literally a handbag man bag. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you guys next week for the topic of protection.